Every person has a story, but not everyone has a place to tell it. I've interviewed amazing people all over the planet. I want you to meet them.
Hello, I'm Harry Sladich, and I'm the most interesting person you've never heard of because I have personally taken care of the President of the United States.
Harry Sladich, I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Hello, Frank.
Welcome to the most interesting person you've never heard of podcast. Sponsored by Dry Fly Distillery.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. You are now drinking, I don't know what you're drinking. This is the rye. And I've been too busy to go get the next spirit, but we will be getting more.
All right. I think
and the taste test
we're going to run out.
What do you think?
It's delicious.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is. In fact, my daughter and I made, I believe, a barrel of that. My Christmas gift was to go there and bottle our own little cask, which will be opening in July.
You have your own. Do they know you're competing against them? Making
It's their
own
whiskey. So it's their program.
You're just marketing it under your own.
Yes. Yeah, Harry's blend.
I did ask Don Poffenroth if, in fact, he could make an MIP podcast blend, and he didn't say no.
Well, you better hurry up. He told me he was
yeah,
maybe sell it or
There's some things going. Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, this will air after that, or we're editing this out.
Yeah, maybe something I shouldn't have said. Or
again, Harry.
Yep.
So my goal for this next time we're here together, catching up, is that neither of us get canceled. What do you think? Is it possible?
Well, I've been trying a lot, and it hasn't happened yet, but I think it is possible
that we can make it through. You're pretty shrewd when the camera rolls. When it doesn't roll, you're not very shrewd, I got to say. So we were tell me the story about, we were trying to actually get connected here.
We were.
So you called me. I was like, hey, Harry, you want to be on the podcast? And you were just planning to come over here.
I did. Like anything else, our lives get busy and we change our routine. So the routine that I had when I was at Visit Spokane and thereafter at Red Lion is we would engage your company, right? So then I got to have great work and then also hang around my friend. And so there was a lot more opportunities for us to get together.
On the roof.
And then on the roof. And that's where I went, where no one knew where I was. I was on the roof with you and got you the Frank Sinatra flag.
You did. We'll talk about the flag. I do want to.
But anyway, I was, we had somehow come across, and I said, I've got to go over there. I've just got to go over there. So on my calendar, I tried. I thought I'm going to go see and surprise Frank. And so I think it was about 2:30 in the afternoon and everyone had left. No,
we were on a shoot
it was like 4 o'clock. Anyway, so I tried and I said, well, I came by and you were gone. And so I thought I'm going to do it again. So I had it on my calendar. I said, go by and see Frank. Because if you don't put it in the calendar, there's always something that's going to get in the way. And so
you're a very busy man.
No, not everybody is busy. But it's so funny is then I had a meeting that popped up and I couldn't. And then all of a sudden you called. And I said, that is so weird.
Serendipitous.
And then you said, you want to be on the podcast? And I said, sure, I'd love to. And then I came over and now I'm drinking with you.
So you did set up my next question. We met at when you were at Visit Spokane.
Correct.
So somehow people were so desperate that they gave you the job. I don't know.
How did you? Yes.
Things were so low.
That's a funny story.
Spokane,
and
but you kicked ass in that job.
Every day I look around and I think about what I've done, and I still am insecure that I have. If I'm, am I worthy? Did I do a good job?
Oh my God.
I think you need to. I just saw, to digress for a minute, I just saw Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great. And he spoke and got a chat with him a little bit on the side. But he basically said, be paranoid and be a little insecure your whole life. If you're not, then you're not going to continue to be great, right? If you think you've arrived.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm at
I'm
Visit.
safe.
I'm at Visit. Yeah, you're totally safe. I'm at Visit Spokane. And
this is when? When did you get that job?
This was in 2000.
Wow. Is it that long ago? My God.
Or 2000 it was 2005.
Yeah.
And so I'm in there And they hired me. And so I'm in this big
You're
corner
running the
office.
deal. You're not
Yep.
just there. You're
Nope.
running the show,
I'm the CEO. And the
Wow.
board kind of goes away, and I'm thinking someone left me in charge. I think this is a terrible idea. And so at the same time, our good friend Marty Dickinson was
Oh,
at the head of the DSP.
I wondered how long it would be before
Yep.
Marty.
Well, it's relevant to this
Every
because
time we mention Marty, we'll have to drink. Or
we will
something.
have to drink. But what's so funny is that she's there, and we were introduced to some good family friends, and so the two of you have to meet each other. So about
You hadn't
6
met her
months in-
before that?
No, I had not. No,
What?
it was the Pring family.
Seems like you guys have known
that
each
did
other
that.
forever.
Yeah, well, no, only since
Wow.
2005.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in my office, and it had floor-to-ceiling windows, and it looked right downtown. It was literally the best office ever. And the phone rings. It's about 6 months in. It's Marty. She goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I'm actually sitting here waiting for someone to come knock on the door and say, 'What the hell are you doing in here? How did you get this job?'" And I guess what I learned a long time ago was for the longest time I always thought that these people had to have been smarter than me to get these jobs. They just I must not know it. And then you get to the same level as some of these people, and you're thinking, "Oh my God!"
Right.
I mean, yes, I can do this job. If
can
they
totally
can do the
do-
job, I can do
you
the
can
damn
totally
job.
do this job, yeah.
And so yeah,
That-
and so
and then
when-
some.
and then some. And when I met with the staff, they were interviewing us, and it was Gianna, now Paulie, Keith,
Yes, yeah.
and Pam Scott, and those. And I said, "What do you guys want?" And they said, "We want a seat at the table," because at the time it was ruled primarily with GSI. It wasn't GSI then, but the Greater Spokane
Chamber.
Corporate Chamber and the EDC and the DSP to agree. But Visit was never at the table in the discussions, and they said, "I want to be at the table." And I said, "Then I'll guarantee you we will get a seat at the table." And that was my goal, was to get that organization relevant. And the way that I felt that we had to become relevant is we had to be known. And you don't get to be known by doing the same thing over and over again. And that's where we met you, because a lot of the agencies and a lot of the work that was being done was so predictable. And if you didn't
Yeah.
take a chance, my favorite book is called Positioning: The Battle for Your Mind. It's by Jack Trout and Al Rees. And the premise is to basically create your own path and own it. And
right.
how do you differentiate? Because if all things are equal,
Right.
the only differentiator is price. Who's cheapest?
Right.
So in your business,
Right.
if you can't offer something special,
Right.
I'm going to just be looking at who's cheapest.
Yeah,
So
right. You become a commodity.
You become a commodity. So how do we differentiate? And then accreditation. I was hell bent on getting through DMAI, the Destination Marketing Association National. They had these accreditations. So I wanted everybody accredited. We were one of the first 100 cities to be fully accredited as an organization.
Wow.
And that gave us the credibility to continue the direction we were going, because it'd say, "Oh yeah, you don't think we should? Well, this says I should."
Right.
And I'm accredited.
Right.
And I had a badge and everything.
Wow. And do you have a hat and like a little
I didn't have
scarf?
a hat. Now I wear a hat because I'm balding, but back then I
Well,
didn't.
but you were the other thing I think you did really well, and this was when it was called the Spokane Visitors Convention Bureau, right? Visitors and
It was
Convention
called the
Bureau.
Spokane Regional Convention and Visitors Bureau,
Dude,
CVB.
yeah, too long a brand.
Yep.
Visit Spokane, way better. So anyway, but what you did really well, you made the annual meetings awesome. They were really surprising.
Yes.
and those are the same old rubber chicken dinner event.
They are.
Usually across the board of any kind of annual meeting,
They
they
are.
can be kind of not great, but you just took it. What was your favorite part of that? Because
it's
you took
funny.
a chance there.
It's funny you brought that up, because I was thinking, and I, of course, asked you, "What are we talking about?" And you said you won't tell me. But
Well, I will.
But it's
just
funny
not
because
until we start
the-
rolling.
one of the biggest icons in the visitors world is, his name is Steve Moore, and he was the head of Visit Phoenix. So he was an icon in the industry, and I had befriended him, and I had asked him to come up and speak at our conference, at our annual meeting.
So first of all,
And-
let me stop you. You befriended him. That is your key. That's your trick. That's your superpower.
Yes,
It is, right? And you met not through email probably, but somewhere you bumped into him face to face, had a conversation, threw him in the back of a cab, drove around Vegas, 2 a.m, stopping through In and Out. Oh wait, that was you and I.
exactly.
But something like that, right?
It was, and
guessing.
what people forget is they forget that if you just take a minute to learn all you can about them and what's important to
Right.
them and what's good to them, and you remember that stuff, then if they're good people, they're going to reciprocate.
Right.
And he was a great guy, and so he came to Spokane for the annual meeting.
But you remembered
And
all that stuff, and you fed it
I
back
did,
to him.
I
And
did,
You, and
and
you
to this
did
day
your,
we're
that was a
dear
big
friends.
That was a big move, right?
It is, and that's why I got on the head of Visit Spokane in Spokane, Washington, was involved in the U.S. Travel
I was
Association.
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And that
You were a board member of that.
well, I was with the CEO of United Airlines and Avis Rental Car, and the people that sat on that board were the icons of the travel industry, and I was on that board, and that was through my friend Roger Dow, who is the CEO of that. But
so awesome.
but to the fun part, so we were trying to do a program where we want people who are getting on an airplane and going to attend an association. Accountants, attorneys, doctors, whatever. They all belong to an association.
Credit unions. Yeah.
Yes,
I
credit unions.
did a bunch of work for
Elvis,
those.
yep.
CUNA. That's correct.
So we wanted them to mention our community. We wanted them to say, have you considered that, and let us give a bid and whatever, because they're attending all of them. So I don't know how we came up with this idea, and it was a team effort, but I still am good friends with our former sheriff, Ozzie Knezevich.
Yep.
And we came up with, we want to deputize
That's
all of the members to become CVB deputies. Commit
Right.
CVB deputies.
Right,
So
right.
you're going to get deputized, and you're going to go out and profess the beauties of Spokane and
You're a
be
bartender
evangelists
or a
for the-
server. Somebody says, what's there to do? You know.
Well, not that, but these are all people at my annual meeting. So
Oh,
these
okay.
are the
Oh, okay.
executives.
Oh,
these
okay.
are the bank people,
Okay,
whatever.
gotcha.
And
These
because
are-
they're the ones attending conferences
Right,
someplace
right,
else.
right, right. Oh, I
So I
see.
said, I
Oh,
want you,
smart.
when you go to your conference, I want you to mention our city and
Right.
and do that. So Steve's there from Phoenix. And so I get the sheriff to go up on stage. He's in
I
his
remember
full
this.
uniform.
I
Yep.
totally remember this.
And he says, everybody raise your hand.
Ozzy.
And they all get sworn in as CVB deputies. and so everybody had fun
It sort
with
of
that.
was hokey and not at the same time. It
was.
was kind of real.
So
But people
Steve,
were
so
serious
Steve
about it.
goes back to Phoenix. I called him up, and we handed out merchandise that showed CVB deputy, and here's where to call. And I said, number one, thanks for coming, by the way.
Yeah.
I said, and
Right.
meanwhile, he hates geckos. And so I had our art team send his team. So when he got back to his office, his whole office had geckos in it. And his screensaver was his face on a gecko. So while he was gone, I had coordinated with his team
Fantastic.
to do that. So anyway, I said, how'd it go when you got back? And he goes, it went great. Well, I had a blast. And he goes, I gave my team your marketing piece and said, how is it that a city like Spokane with that tiny budget is kicking our ass
Yeah. Right?
with coming up with unique and fun stuff?
Right,
So
different
that
idea.
was the greatest compliment ever.
Right.
that he
Because
would
his
say,
budget's 10 times easy.
It is 10 times easy, but he just loved the ingenuity
Ingenuity.
that we
Right.
would go about it. Yeah.
Wow. So when you're on that board, you're on that travel board, and you're little old Spokane, because I've been in some similar spots
Yeah.
where I'm sitting in this, and you kind of feel out like who the players are and how this is going to go and how you size up and all this stuff. Did you start to realize at some point that you actually have more to give to them than they realize, or that they maybe have? Because those guys have been on that thing forever, and everybody knows who they are.
Yep.
But to hear from somebody that's not them, that's
Yep.
in this size of a community, that's sort of middle America,
Yeah.
had to be valuable.
It was, but what I learned a long time ago from a mentor of mine, he said, when you're in these meetings, don't talk about stuff you really don't know. Okay, just don't go on and just opine about this or
That's
that.
right. Don't
Just
have opinions.
Talk about the things that you know well.
Exactly right.
And it will eventually come around. And if you're in a meeting the whole time and it doesn't come up, then don't think you have to say something.
That's
It's
right.
the people who just think they have to say something
God.
that are just, you're
God.
looking at them like, what?
I was just in DC with like 20 different.
Yes. So
People
just,
from around the
just
country, I'm
wait
like,
for that. And the other thing
too
that I
much.
did, back to your point, and I don't remember how I was ever taught this, but there's always a reception beforehand. There's always something before the meeting. Okay. So I made sure I knew who they were, And I made sure, and I
You
went
did
up
your homework.
and I talked to them prior. So if the head of United or whatever, I'd introduce myself and I'd say, it's really important that you're on this committee, and how'd you get involved in this? And the one thing people like talking about the most is themselves. And so, and I'm not doing it in a patronizing way. I'm actually very curious. Some of these stories are remarkable.
Oh yeah.
But by the time the meeting came, the ice is already broken.
Right.
And I'm looking at them and saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And
They've already met you.
and we've already met, and go from there. Carolyn Batetta is the head of Visit California, so she made all those commercials. Everyone thinks we're movie stars, and
Right.
she's done that.
Wow.
Her and I got to be great buddies, and she basically helped us hire an agency for Red Lion to do a brand wide thing that was kind of along that same vein. So it's amazing, who you'll run into. And then her daughter was looking at Gonzaga, so they flew up in their plane, and we took them to dinner.
Wow.
And then my daughter had always wanted to go to Disneyland on Halloween, and it's closed, right? They close it as limited entry. And so I called her up and said, "Look, I don't want anything free. I'll pay, but can I get in?
Can I get on the list?"
And she goes, "You're in." And so we spent Halloween in Disneyland with my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's so cool.
But it's amazing what the world looks like when you really seek out to understand other people, curious about how they got started, and pay attention, because when you do little things for them, I'm a big fan of writing notes. So the head of Visit Salt Lake City was a hotelier like I was before I joined. And I read in the journal, in this trade journal, that he did that. I didn't know him from Adam, but I just wrote him a note. I said, "Scott, I'm a former hotelier as well, and I'm just getting started. I hope we meet. Good luck to you." Okay. Fast forward a year later, I'm at some conference. I meet him. He says, "You sent me that letter."
Right.
And then he went on to be the head of Indianapolis, Visit Toronto. Now he's head of Visit San Francisco.
Oh my God.
He's one of my dearest friends, and all because
You wrote a note.
I just wrote a note.
You George Bush seniored on him.
Yeah.
He used to, right?
Yeah.
Herbert Walker, man, he was all about that.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So I think we forget about that stuff,
That's pretty amazing for a guy that pretty much flunked out of Gonzaga. I don't think there's any secrets here.
I left
Well,
prior.
okay, whatever. And your dad by the way, was the president.
He was interim president twice. At the time, he was vice president.
Okay, well, he was vice president. That's fine then.
Yep.
What? Tell me about that. So you just said enough of this. I'm going to go hang out with rock and roll bands and at the Sheraton.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to start a rock band, but that didn't work out. But no, I guess I never really did well with conformity, and so.
But you're so organized. You're like the most. You go to your house, and it is like your garage is like the most pristine place. You could do surgery in there.
That's because I told myself to do it. Someone didn't tell me to do it.
Okay.
But at prep, as
But
you
you
know,
were so organized. Like
Yes.
I can't. I would think
That's my
this
OCD.
guy is a 4-point student.
I wasn't a bad student, actually. I was digging through this box that my mom gave me of old stuff. I found my Expo 74 pass and stuff like that. Right?
Nice.
And when I found a pen pal that I had in 1974, and I found her last week.
Of course, it was a her.
I found her. Yeah.
What?
Elizabeth Miner. I said, this
Wait,
email
wait, wait.
may sound creepy, but
It's
were you
totally
my
creepy.
pen pal in 1974? And she goes, "I was. How did you find me?" And so,
How did you find her?
I just
What?
her letter to me then. So her last name, her married name, the high school,
Yeah,
the
people
grade school
had
she was going to.
had pen pals.
Yeah, we did. I haven't. How we started that, I have no idea.
I don't know either.
But I reached out to her. Now, I'll probably never speak to her again. But what if the universe later down the line, we run into each other again? And
Well,
so it's
of
just like
course
planting
they-
a garden.
Of course they did.
You're just planting a garden is all you're doing.
All the
Some stuff
time.
will grow.
That's right.
Some stuff won't.
That's right.
But back
What did
to
she
prep.
say though? What did she
She-
say? In her, this is so cool.
Oh,
I think.
she cracked up. She goes, "I cannot believe you found that."
Where does she live now?
Yeah, she lives still in the same area in New York.
She was in New York.
Yeah, I said, "Do you know how we started this?" She goes, "I don't remember." I go, "Neither do I." And then at first she
but
thought,
she remembered you were her pen
well,
pal.
she was kind of freaked out because she thought I kept it. right? Like
Oh.
stalker.
Well,
And I
that's
said, no,
that follows.
my mother kept this box for me.
Please, time out. Yeah.
Someday I'm going to meet her.
Wow. So you found this box? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Wow. Anyway.
but anyway, so prep, with the Jesuits and the nuns there. And, so it was always
When did you graduate from prep?
79.
Okay, so it was.
We were the
it was-
first year of the girls. My freshman year
yes.
was the first year girls came.
Okay, so I've had several guests on this that have been just before, just after we're part of it.
We were the first
Julie
class
Sweeney
all 4
was
years.
on here,
Yes.
and she was the first graduate. My sister Georgia was the first graduating class. So you were 79. You were a year ahead of my brother Jim. Okay, got it.
Yep. So girls came in, and I was nervous around them, but I
John
knew
Mannix
I knew
and
him. He's in
Daryl
my
Stevens.
class, my class.
Yeah, Craig Hart.
Jack Heath. Yep.
Jack Heath, Craig
Yep.
Hart.
All my classmates.
Still your friends to this day.
they
Isn't
are.
that how prep is, sort of? You can't stay with those
that's
guys.
the beauty that I took away from prep. But it was, I knew I was a smart ass. So smart asses usually know that they're smart asses.
By the way,
right?
Harry, you weren't the only one who knew.
I know. Well, I know that. So, for example, I had JUG, Justice Under God is what it stands for. I had JUG after class almost every day. And so I was told by Mr. Mengert that I needed to chop down the weeds around the tennis courts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So they gave me a sickle. So I had sixth period free, and I thought that's not very efficient. So I ran home, and I told my mother, because my father wasn't home, that I'm helping out at the school and I need the weed eater. So back then it was electric.
And he bought that.
And no, so my mom said, that's wonderful, honey. And I took the weed eater and extension cord
a perfect
back
child.
to prep. So now my mistake is stopping at 7-Eleven for a Slurpee.
That wasn't the intention. The intention was...
Yes, the spirit of it is
You
what
probably
he told
stopped
me.
here at 7-Eleven when this was a 7-Eleven.
Not
No,
this one.
was a little
No,
bit
no,
older.
we didn't live by this one. So I am going around, and the thing looks beautiful, and I'm
But they
way
wanted
ahead.
you to
And
pull
Mr.
the
Mengert
weeds.
comes out, and he says, Mr. Sladich, what are you doing? I said, I am knocking down the weeds around the tennis court.
Just as you asked.
And he had a pocket watch, and he looked at it. He said, Mr. Sladich, I don't think you understand the spirit of this. And I said, you told me to chop it down. So then
This is true.
he says, all right, you have even more, whatever. And I said, bullshit or something like that. Then I had even more. But so what what I was looking for was,
You knew this was going to happen, Harry.
I knew it was going to,
You set it up.
but he could have at least said, all right, good one. Good one.
Yeah, you
But-
could. That was
but-
that
but-
would be worth the risk.
But no. So stop that. You know why we're doing that. Put that down. But he didn't roll with it. He didn't have any, he didn't know how to
That's
manage
clever.
that.
That was a clever
yeah,
move
yeah,
that
he just-
should have received
boom, boom.
some kind of attaboy.
Yeah, but,
didn't.
because I expected to get my ass kicked for it. Totally. So anyway.
Why'd you do it, you think?
So, pardon me?
Why'd you do it then?
To just
Just to
stick
beat-
it to
just
the
to-
maniosis. So anyway, so then I go to Gonzaga and
University.
Yes, university.
Okay.
And I don't know. I learned by doing, I think, in accounting, for example, and I ended up.
What was your major? Is that
overseeing-
your major?
No, it was business. I was going to go in for business.
see, that's a tough
But I ran the P&Ls for 1,300 hotels in a publicly traded hotel company. So yes, understand P&Ls and I understand that. But when I was learning it for the first time, they'd say, they're all little. You're just going to do the trial balance, and you this. I go, how does all this go together? It seems like we're doing these things in a silo. And they're like, you can't hear that yet. Eventually, you're going to see that. And I'm thinking, this is bullshit.
You were just.
This is
You
busy
were
work.
just ready for the
This
next
is
level. You were
busy-
too damn
busy
smart.
work. No, I doubt that was the case. So I finally got a job at the Sheraton, and that was the DoubleTree now.
Okay,
And-
so this is
and
okay. What year is this now?
This is
the heyday
1978.
of the Sheraton.
It is the heyday of the
Okay,
Sheraton.
so Brotherton is the Brotherhood is the
Brotherhood.
band.
Yep.
My brother John is the drummer for a while on like several years. Did you know that?
John.
John Swoboda, my brother John. He was the drummer for the first
Dave,
several years of
Dave
that
was
band.
the drummer during then. Dave
Okay,
was-
that
yeah,
he had
Dave
got,
gone,
he moved
yeah.
on by then, but he
I
was their
would've-
first
I
drummer.
would have recognized the last name.
He was their
yeah.
first drummer for
Yep.
several years.
No,
at
it
the
was
Sheraton.
It was
amazing.
the place to be.
Joe
JJ's Lounge
Brash.
had that. Joe Brash, and still talk to him. Still friends with
Oh,
Joe.
yeah, me too. Joe's great.
But so I was there and I was excelling, And I'll tell you, people say, how'd you get into management? So I'm a front desk clerk, right? First I started in the dish room, and then I was in the coffee shop, and I'm a front desk clerk. And the hotel gets a new general manager, and he's a very stoic German, Hubertus Gunther. And Mr. Gunther is now roaming the hotel at night. Now that he's new, he just started, and I'm the only one on the front desk, and JJ's is hopping.
JJ's
so
lounge.
This customer comes over with his wife, and he says, "I need to speak to the manager on duty." And I glance over at him because he's standing at the desk, and he's like,
It ain't me.
It ain't me. So I'm like,
It's you.
And there's no other general manager.
You're it.
So I just said, well, I'm the manager on duty, thinking I'm going to get my ass fired because I said it in front of him. What am I? So I punted. I said, I'm the manager on duty.
Right,
She goes,
right.
well, we don't have our ID. Well, I'd heard that doorman tell them why you need your ID 1,000 times because I could hear it. So I just repeated what I'd heard. You need your ID, the Washington State Liquor Control, blah, 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 blah. And they were mad, but they left. And so he runs his hand all the way down this long desk until he gets to me, and he taps it, and he said, good job. And then he left. So then I was asked to come to his office the next day. And I thought,
shit.
well, here it is. Here's where I'm going to, impersonating a manager on duty.
Just like the priest with the weed whacker.
Exactly. And he said, I want you to be the resident manager of the hotel at night. And I said, what?
And so you were at Gonzaga GU for a couple of years?
6 months.
And
That's why when you said, what's my major? I had to think about that.
So life, right?
Yeah.
So you go full time and you're there and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You're pretty young, dude.
I was 19. And
19.
When I started there, 19.
But I've seen you in pictures with a suit.
Oh yeah, well, I had to wear a suit,
right?
And I could go into
and you
JJ's
had hair.
lounge. I had long hair. I could go into JJ's lounge. I just couldn't sit down because I'm a minor. But I could go in. I handled all the things. Basically, he knew that I knew how to bus tables, clean rooms, check people in the front desk.
You could do that job.
And yeah, so
100%.
And so you needed someone who was kind
a
of
night owl.
Yeah, and a night owl.
Knew the band. They liked you.
They did.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And so I was, and that's when I
turned
finally
the other
said,
eye when all the cocaine walked by. You could do that.
That's right. I see that. And so I said, you know what? I love this and I'm good at it. And I'll never forget my father. And I have, as an adult now with a child of my own, the wisdom he had, he was so measured because I was just waiting for, don't get in my face, whatever. But my father, I said, Dad, I asked to see him in his office, and Barbara was his secretary. I said, I need to see my dad. And I said, Dad, I'm out. I'd already had to write a letter of apology to the university for a kegger I threw. I broke a window and didn't pay for it, so the bill came to my parents' house.
What dorm?
Catherine Monica.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'd already done that. So my father kind of got an idea that this wasn't my deal.
See, it was a co-ed dorm. If you'd been to SMET, you'd still probably would have finished.
Could have.
Like me.
But he said he was obviously disappointed. The oldest, his namesake. How's your son doing in college?
Harry, not how's your son doing.
Yeah.
How's Harry Jr. doing?
Yes. And so I said, Dad, this isn't for me. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go into the hotel business. And he very calmly, because he was a very calm and measured guy, he said, then make me a promise. And I said, I will. And he goes, be good at it. And I can finally tell that story without breaking completely down in tears.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, I will.
Yeah.
I will. And he was alive long enough to thank God to see that I was.
See that you did. You kept your word. What was he like?
Oh, calm.
That's a generation of guys that are just
calm as, just
he'd seen it all.
Very kind, very loving. I always told my father that I loved him. I always hugged my father.
Yeah, me too.
My mom was the fire of it, but Dad was very measured, wickedly dry sense of humor, funny as hell, just dry as can be.
Yeah.
And and his friends loved him, and he worked his whole year. I was born in Anaconda, Montana, and we moved to Spokane when I was 1, and Dad took a job there and worked there for 47 years. And so
he was at Gonzaga for 47 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So I just had Chris Standiford on here.
Oh yeah.
Not long ago.
Yes.
Mr. Athletic Director.
Yes, indeed.
And we just talked a good portion of the time about people are so fucking spoiled in this town over that school
They are.
and the success that team has.
They are.
Can you please paint the picture of how close that school came to closing?
It did.
Like your dad was in the middle of that.
He was, as was Harry Magnuson.
Yeah.
So the Magnuson family.
Well,
of
he
Coeur d'Alene.
saved that whole school, did he not?
Well, and what's fascinating is they died a week apart. And
Is that right? The two Harrys.
The two Harry and the Journal of Business did
Wow.
a spread that said a tale of two Harrys.
Oh,
and
wow.
so Dad was on the inside and Harry Magnuson was on the outside, and the school was in terrible financial trouble. And the Jesuits were having, I guess, I don't know, I wasn't there, I was a young kid, but they needed my dad to kind of step in a little bit with somebody outside. And Harry Magnuson basically told the bank, I'll co-sign for all the university's
So
loans.
tell people who Harry Magnuson was.
Harry Magnuson is, number one, a beautiful human being, but he was very successful. He's an attorney. They're land developers, timber. I mean, you name it. Wallace, Idaho is where they were from.
That's right.
Coeur d'Alene.
Awesome house in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh my God. I mean, just a wonderful family. Most of them, but anyway, there's always a black sheep.
Big Zag.
But John Magnuson, who's become one of my dear friends, his son, we really bonded over our fathers because we didn't know each other at the time. But Gonzaga came very, very close to losing it.
And this was in the 80s,
yeah,
70s.
late 70s, I think.
70s,
And,
early 80s,
yep. And now I think, to your point, and with Chris, I was asked to help out with this name, image, and likeness. So I'm on the committee.
Is that right?
Yep. So I was bitching about it, and therefore,
Careful.
my friends who are on that, Jack and
Right.
Mr. Gee and Mr.
Yes.
Fritz, there, they said, well, you're on it. So but anyway,
Right.
but what's the danger now is for the university is, I don't think people really understand that if we don't get that NIL figured out, these athletes won't come here.
That's right.
They
Gonzaga
just
is
won't come here.
perilously close again
Yes.
to being at the top of the heap and not
Yes.
being there.
And there's a lot of people
What a
who,
crazy
who get
world it
really
is.
angry that these students can earn money. Look, Gonzaga didn't invent this. They didn't do it. They're on the field and all the rules changed.
That's right.
So we can't
Literally.
let Gonzaga fail by doing that. So there's certainly donors straight to the athletes. The athletic department still needs all its money, right?
Correct.
So it can't be compromised. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to see how do we figure out other ways for businesses to interact with athletes, and we haven't vetted it all out yet. The game has changed again as it relates to nonprofit. So there's still some moving pieces, but
And it will change again.
it'll probably change again. But we we were kind of, we don't want our Zags to ever not be where they are, but
Or at least have the opportunity that everybody else
Correct.
have the playing field that they've been on.
But if we start to lose players and not be good anymore, people are going to go, damn, we had it good.
Yeah.
So let's not let it get there. But
Right.
but anyway, but Gonzaga was always in my blood. I told them that I was going to do this because of my commitment to Gonzaga. Gonzaga University is truly a family. Thane, after my father died, Thane would call my mom on a regular basis just to check in on her.
Oh.
The president of the university is
Yeah.
calling my mother.
Wow.
They named an award after my
gonna
dad,
ask you about
the
that.
loyalty, Harry Sladich Loyalty Award. They invite me and my family to the dinner, the trustees dinner, where it's awarded. And I've known every recipient so far.
So who's
that's
gotten
gotten
it? So, give me a few names.
Oh,
of
Sue
people who've-
Weiss and
Oh,
Chuck
Sue.
Murphy and
Chuck.
Raymond Reyes.
Reyes. Oh, Raymond, awesome.
It's just people who have been loyal to the university. So, but school just wasn't my gig, and I get pretty passionate about people saying.
But
that you
Gonzaga
have to
still
go.
accepted you as part of that community.
They
forever.
have.
Yeah.
They have, and you don't need to have. I would highly suggest that kids go to school. I really would. It would have been an easier path for me, but it's not critical.
Right.
It's just not.
Right,
and
right.
and why don't you take that $200,000 and buy a franchise system or buy a business or whatever, and you could probably be further in the
My son Nick has taken that route. He's like, he actually sat us down and had that conversation. He's like, I don't want to do this.
Yes.
I'm going to end up at $200,000 in debt. This
Yes.
is not for me.
Correct.
I want to go be an audio engineer and
Yes.
make music and do it now. He's
Totally.
ahead of the game. He runs
Totally.
our digital campaigns. He's killing it.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely right
Yeah.
at he's a senior in high school,
Yep.
saying, he went to Nashville, ended up going through a sort of trade school there, the biggest sound studio in the world. So he got a really incredible education, but it was quick. It was a year. It didn't take all 4 years, didn't cost him all that money.
Yeah.
And he is way ahead of the game
And happier.
and loving what he's doing. And he knew that.
Totally
He knew
agree.
that from the beginning. And it was a really alternative route. Prep actually had him come back and talk to the students about
that.
hey, you don't need to go down this road. This isn't
Well,
for everybody. It's not.
I spoke at WSU in the hospitality school for years. I'd go down there because they all wanted to know how in the world did I get to be a resident manager at 19, right?
Right.
So I did until one day a kid said, "Where did you graduate from?" And I said, "I didn't." And then I wasn't invited back.
The school of hard knocks,
Yeah.
kid.
And so I kind of just thought that's too bad.
It is too bad.
Because I never trash school. I say, my wife has 2 undergraduate's degrees and a Juris Doctorate degree. My daughter was unbelievable at Boston University. So I'm so proud of them, but it's just not for everybody.
No, it's not.
Anyway.
Yeah, and my daughter Emma, she's at UW, about to finish, same age
Hard
as
as hell school.
Sabrina. Oh
Yes,
my
exactly.
God, top 20 in the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
I mean, so freaking hard. And I look at both of them, and they're both right where they should be. Like she's absolutely built for that. Nick was not built for that, and he was smart enough, like you were, to go,
Yep.
That's a big, bold move. Did you wrestle over that?
I did.
Or did you just like go,
No, and
I'm out?
And I was very insecure about it for a long time. I would, on my resume, they'd say college, and I'd put Gonzaga University with no dates, right?
Yeah,
and
well,
because
you
I
did.
thought, that somehow
That mattered.
mattered, and maybe I wasn't as smart as I was. And then after a while, I just said, screw this. I mean, geez, do you know how many MBAs work for me? I mean, I can't even at Red Lion Hotels
Seriously.
Corporation. I once looked around and thought, oh my God, there's at least 23 MBA executives that answer to me.
Right.
So why am I so wrapped around an axle?
Because
like
you're
this?
the conductor of the symphony, right?
Yeah.
You're the conductor.
Yeah.
You're not.
But I mean,
You're not the first chair.
No,
you don't need to
exactly.
be.
No. Anyway,
All right. So you go from Sheraton. How long were you there?
I was there 8 years.
But before you leave, you got a very important visitor one day that came to the Sheraton Hotel and stayed one night,
I can probably imagine who you're thinking.
and his name was Ronald Reagan.
Yes, the President of the United States. Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So when you got the news of this,
Yeah.
first of all, the Secret Service let you stay there with your background.
Yes.
How did you
yes,
pass
they
the
did.
background
Well, they
check?
did actually.
That's all I want to know.
They did a background check on everyone, and so the president is coming, and he's going to stay
he
the
was
night,
coming to Spokane.
and he's going to stay the night, which is because they don't stay the night everywhere. He usually stayed in L.A. or whatever, but he's going to come and stay at Spokane, and so the preparations
This
for
is
that
what year?
visit. This was 1987. Wow. And the preparations for that visit, I'll never forget. I mean, it was the greatest.
This
time.
is pretty old, Ronnie,
Yeah.
right? Because he's
Yep.
done in '88, is
Yep,
he not?
I think so. 80. This is 80, 86 or 87.
Okay,
So the Secret Service arrives first, and
like a week ahead, bro.
2 weeks ahead, and they run background checks on everyone. And one of our dishwashers at the time, great cat, just kind of a hippie. They want to speak to him. So I have him come
it
out.
is a Republican administration. Let's be
Yeah,
clear.
exactly. And I come out and I said, so and so. I'm not going to say his name, but so and so. They want to talk to you. So we sit down.
Because
They
you're
said,
still the
"Did-
GM at
did
this
you-"
point, right?
No, I'm the resident manager of the hotel.
Oh, you're the resident manager.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they said, "Did you write a letter to the president?" And he goes, "I did." And so they
He
talked.
did?
Yeah, some letter. I don't know what it said. And so he went back and he said he can't be scheduled on the day of the president's rest. So I went back and I said, "What the hell did you write?" He goes, "Oh, that's bullshit. I just blah blah blah."
I was just fired up.
Yeah, just fired up. So he can't be there. So, but they start.
He's
drilling,
the one guy who should be there.
They start drilling holes in the rooms. They're drilling holes from the room out into the hallway so they can put cameras in. This is before Wi-Fi and all that stuff.
No
And
shit.
They're drilling
This
it
is in the presidential suite.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
They put in a whole new phone system that was, so I had a White House phone on my desk. I asked if I could keep it and they said no. but I had a White House phone, so we only used
You
that
could
phone
call the
system.
White House.
No, internally in the it
Oh.
was internally there. Yeah, hello.
That would have been cool.
They X-rayed before the president arrived. They X-rayed all the walls, and so they X-rayed all the walls, and then they rolled these.
Did they find anything cool?
No, they rolled these massive pieces of bulletproof glass in front of the windows. They brought in their own stove, their own refrigerator. He did not eat any of our food. He did not drink any of our water.
No shit.
Yeah, and so and then the fire department came, and the fire department raised their truck up, and the highest it would go was the 9th floor. So they made an invisible mark outside of room 910. I still remember it. And then the Secret Service was all on the 9th floor, and he's on the 15th floor, because if there was a fire, they would bring the president down to floor 9 if he couldn't get out, and then they would take him down. And then the limousine came and pulled under an awning because of the building across the street, which is low-income housing. You know, that was too high for them, so the limousine had to pull into a tarped area. I got to see the limo. My wife, Sean, she was allowed to come in and see the limo. They don't open the front. They try not to open the front doors very often because they're so heavy.
Of the car?
The hinges, yeah, it was so heavy at the time. The glass in that limousine is this thick. It has its own oxygen system, its own PA system in it, and then
it's like Air Force One on the wheels.
Secret Service has a backup one. When the president arrived, he came out of the elevator, and they had him surrounded, and he told us a joke. We all laughed our asses off about it.
What was the joke? Do you remember?
He said something like, I told Margaret Thatcher that if the settlers would have come across from the other ocean, this would have been Washington D.C. or this would have been the capital instead of over
Oh,
there.
that's awesome.
We're like,
That's
but he was very
Wow.
very personable.
Well, I bet that's
Very
That's
personable.
incredibly thoughtful.
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
that he would actually make that connection.
He did. And so we all went in.
Wow.
He went in, and then they locked the door. And so I said, to Ted, was the Secret Service agent with my connection, what does he have? So he tells the guy, he pulls his suit coat back, and he's got these MAC-10 machine guns hanging. They're not in holsters. They're just hanging.
Holy shit.
And he's got that. So I went down to the Secret Service room. I got a Holden Uzi. I got a Secret Service belt buckle. I got presidential cufflinks. I have the cigarettes from the president's room. Marlboro made cigarettes with the presidential seal on them.
And you have
And
that.
I have all that
I've seen
memorabilia.
those. I've seen these in
And-
your house.
Yep. And so
You had them in your office for a while.
I did have them
Yes,
in my
you
office.
did.
So that was quite a treat to be able to be a part of that. And then I got to say goodbye to him. And the Secret Service kind of smiled, and he goes, "Not very many people get to meet the president once, but you've got to meet him twice."
What did you say to him? What did he say to you?
He just said, "Hey, good to see you again. Thanks. It was a great visit." He did. And you're like,
Drop the mic.
yep.
I'm
Will you
out.
go on to TripAdvisor and do a review?
Like there was one then in 1986.
Yeah,
What'd
no,
you think
but
of
we
him?
had-
What'd you think? Was he just bigger than life?
He really was. He's taller than I thought, but just very personable. He made eye contact with everybody. He just really, made everybody feel great. And who was traveling with him at the time? John Poindexter was traveling with him at the time.
Wow.
A lot of those guys that were, during the Iran Contra, a lot of those cats were traveling with him
Oh,
at the
interesting.
time. Yeah, so they were there. But I've partied and drank beer with ZZ Top and wore Liberace's coat and I mean,
I don't want to know that story.
Yeah,
What you and
no.
Liberace do
Yeah.
with your own time, it's
No.
your own business. You're a
Very wonderful
consenting
man, but the
adults.
makeup on him was insane. but you name them, I
Right.
would connect with them because back then that's where you stayed.
Who was your favorite?
Dusty Hill from ZZ Top was really nice. Eddie Van Halen was really, really
Oh,
nice.
he was a big deal then.
Yep.
Top of the game back then.
They were Cheap Trick was complete. Cheap Trick went to Shenanigans after the concert behind there, and I didn't know that. And I was off work, and we were having a drink, and everybody said, "Oh my God, it's Cheap Trick." Well, they came in, and he actually saw me, and he waved. The whatever his name is that plays the double-headed guitar.
No way.
Yeah, he waved to me.
So all the babes were like,
Yeah.
you know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
wow.
Supertramp was probably the biggest, nicest gentleman I've ever met. So
Seriously.
So yeah, those guys,
Biggest
all
jerk.
those guys. Biggest jerk was the Oak Ridge Boys.
No kidding.
Complete asses.
Really? Bapa Mau Wow. Really?
Yep. Yep.
Wow, I would not have picked them.
Yep.
No
So,
way.
yep. And it's not just because I really don't like country.
I don't either. It might have a little bit to do with it, Harry. Come on, just a little bit. Wow.
But, you
So
know,
I mean, and Ronnie Reagan was not exactly Mr. Scholar, right? I mean, but he had that ability to connect with people, to make people
did.
feel good. He had a lot of what you have.
well, the Secret
He
Service,
does have a lot
the
of what
Secret
you
Service told me, I go, is that an act? And he said, Ted said, no. He goes, he knows our families. He asks about our kids. I said, by the way, who is the worst? I go, how do you get here, number one? And he goes, we guard dead presidents' wives, and then we,
work your way up.
your way up.
Right. Lady
he-
Bird Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah.
He said Jimmy Carter was the worst,
biggest jerk.
He said, and he thinks it's because of Southern, because he kind of dismissed them. He wouldn't look at them, and was not very personable.
That just surprised. That would surprise me.
And I'd say,
right?
you'd think you'd smile at the guys that are going to take a bullet for you.
No shit. They'd be your best pals, wouldn't
But
they?
they adored. They would follow him anywhere. They said regardless of their political views, he was
Ronnie, yeah.
just so engaging and made them all feel so comfortable, and asked about their families.
Yeah. Well, I had a chance to work with did some security video kind of for the executives at Walmart. If something happens, we want you to be safe, and this is what you should follow. So protocol. So we created this whole video series for them, and we got to hang out with, when we were filming, we filmed at Walmart headquarters, which is essentially an old elementary school. Swear to God, and it wasn't very
In
safe.
Bentonville.
In Bentonville, Arkansas, and we had one of the guys who was part of the project had been a former state trooper for Arkansas State Trooper, and his name was oh man, I'll forget his name, but anyway, Hartel, I think was his name or something. He had this really interesting name, and we're like, hey, because when I was, we were talking about Clinton. Did he come back? Was he there? And they're like, oh, I got a great Bill Clinton story. And I'm like, what is it? And he said he came through one time, and I was leading the, motorcade, and we're all waiting, and he comes through the line, and his I think his uncle had died, so he's there sort of right the first time he's president. He comes back, he meets everybody. He's coming down the line, and Hartel, and he comes to him and he goes, Hartel, nice to meet you. Where's your family from? Well, they're from Watersburg, Mr. President. Watersburg. Do you know Mary and Bill? Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Mr. President. Would you say hi for me? Absolutely. 2 years later, he comes back for some event, going through the line, and he goes, Hartel, how you doing? How's everybody in Watersburg? And did you say hi for me? He knew exactly.
Well, he was just like him.
And this guy was, he was like, I could not believe he knew.
Yeah, but he had that same talent.
That same talent and that same photographic, like, I remember everybody.
Yep.
That's presence and focus and whatever. But I could not believe.
Yep.
He goes, and then the next day I proceeded to lead the motorcade, and I was late, and I almost ran over somebody. I almost caused an accident that caused the limo to be screwed up.
Test their patience.
Like, wow. But, I mean,
it's
I've
a
never
great
forgotten
ability.
that. What a
I
gift.
envy that, because when I came in here and I looked at you, I said, could you tell Frank Swoboda that I'm here?
You have the same gift, Harry.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wow. So you go from there to Red Lion. How did that? No, you did not. Visit Spokane.
No, I left the Sheraton and started my own company for a long time.
You
It
did?
was
What was
for
that?
about 5 years. It was Guestmark International, it was.
I didn't know that.
So I did in-room directories. So when you got to a hotel back in the day, there's a leather book, and room service menu was in it, and behind there was all these ads, and the ads paid for the book. For the hotel.
Sure.
So I had a company that did that, and did that for a while, and then I did telemarketing for floral wholesalers. So we would sell mini Jip and stuff like that, and
Wow.
and then I was approached by my friend at the Hotel Luso,
Yes.
and said, would you consider coming over here?
And that had just opened.
It did. And then
I was there the day just before it opened. We filmed it.
Oh, I mean, just a
And they were-
beautiful
Oh my
asset.
God. And they found tunnels under that.
Yeah.
to the Davenport.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You did not?
No.
Yeah, they're like, come and check this out. So we go down underneath, and there's a tunnel that goes underneath the Luso to the Davenport. And their assumption was,
Speakeasy.
yeah, speakeasy. You know, gentleman goes downstairs, goes across the street. It was a whorehouse of some kind, and they come back. Yeah, I that's what they were claiming because it made probably sold better.
Well, sorry, I'm clearing my voice here, but the physical plan of that property is really cool.
It is cool
for that. And then I was approached by another friend that wanted me to go to Sterling Hospitality, which is the Clausen family, and they own the Holiday Express on the Rock, the Holiday Express in the Valley.
Okay.
14 hotels,
Wow.
now probably 16 hotels across the West. And so I did that. And then I was approached about Visit Spokane.
Because you
And
had a
then
pretty
I went to
rich
Redline.
background
I did.
in that business.
I did.
And really, Visit Spokane, it's about hotel rooms. Kinda.
It
It's
is
about
hotel
filling
rooms. Yep.
hotel rooms.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
is.
not?
It is. And you know, I tell people all the time, the last time I applied for a job was at the Sheraton.
Right.
I've never applied for one since.
Right.
It was, I know somebody, you should
That's
talk
right.
to this person.
That's right.
And whatever, and and away you go. And you know, it's fun now. I'm back on the PFD board, the Public Facilities District
Oh,
board,
good.
and I'm
I'm glad you
heading
are.
this.
Boy, they're killing it, dude.
they're doing great.
I had
Stephanie
Matt
is-
Meyer on here.
Matt is a rock star. Stephanie's a
Unbelievable.
rock star.
Stephanie Kern. Unbelievable.
But it's
We're
but
so
it's a
lucky.
mixture. Oh, it's
Lucky. Talk about Gonzaga,
yes.
Lucky. Those guys, that good, right?
are.
I think.
You're correct.
I mean,
You're
you
correct.
would know better than I would.
You're
but
correct.
You've dealt with, but they're just world class.
They are.
I mean, we're getting the best. You know, Paul McCartney starts his tour here.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good.
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't meet him, but
Oh, thanks, Matt.
But the hoteliers have an agenda, of course, as they should. The convention center and the facilities have theirs. The Visit Spokane has theirs. Sports has theirs. And so it's been fun to sit on the committee because I've been a hotelier.
You bet.
I ran Visit Spokane. I sat on the board of the Seattle Convention Center and PFD in Seattle.
Wow.
It was called the Washington State Convention Center then, and so I
Okay,
sat
that's
on
right.
that board.
That's
So
right.
it's been fun to take
And
the
the US
experience from
board.
that. Pardon me?
And the U.S.
And U.S.
board.
travel. So it's fun to take those experiences now. And when I'm hearing stuff, I hope that I'm helpful in saying,
Oh, of course you are.
you know, I can understand everybody's perspective.
So what's the biggest challenge, and what are you telling them?
Funds are it's everything is funding.
It's money.
Everybody just needs the tax dollars and the occupancy to do that. And what's happening is, and it always has, is that where there's money, then everyone else wants it, right? So it's dedicated for these purposes, but yet everyone is making an argument of why they need it as well. You know, cities across America are saying they need the tourism dollars because tourists drive on roads and they need to pave those roads.
Interesting.
You know, the hotels burn, so we need to support the fire department, and it's so short-sighted. Thankfully, Spokane does not do that, and Council President Betsy Wilkerson sits on our board,
Good.
and hears all of this and is a supporter of that. So, so no, I kind of took a journey to
It's so cool you find yourself
Red
in this
Lion.
stuff, though.
Yeah.
And then you were at Red Line for how
14
long?
years.
Were you really?
Yeah. And I said no, I wouldn't come over there at the time.
14 years.
14 years. John Eliason was
That's
the interim
nuts.
CEO because he was on the board, right? And they
Okay,
let
yeah.
the CEO go. And so John steps in. Well, I knew John from EDC.
Right, because he was
Ran
at
the
Avista.
EDC. Yeah, he's on my same
Right,
floor.
right.
Well, he ran the Economic Development
Oh,
Council.
that's right. He did.
And so
Before Avista.
Yes, no, after Avista.
After Avista.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so he said, you got to come over here. And at the time, a lot of wonderful people worked at Red Lion, but some of the executives were French cuff shirts, stick up their you-know-what. And I just said, John, I'm not coming over there. I said, I don't like that attitude.
That's a culture that doesn't fit me.
Yep. I said, it doesn't fit me. And I go, you don't want me there. And he goes, I know I want you here.
I party with Supertramp, dude. You don't
That's
want
right.
me here.
Come on, Ronnie Reagan says he knows me.
Right.
So he
Well,
goes,
they'd love
what if
that.
I gave you a title big enough to do something about it? And I said,
that's
what?
kind of cool.
And he goes, what if I created your title that the only person you answered to was the CEO and you could do something about it? And I said,
Grand Poobah?
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
I would imagine.
Grandist. I asked for Grandist. But he did, and so I came into the organization as an executive vice president, and all executive vice presidents answer to him. So there was General Counsel Tom Kernan, Julie Schiffler, CFO, me, the HR.
So that mattered. Good for you for holding out, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to help at all.
Well, really, it wasn't like I was saying I'm not coming over and tell. I said no, and he said, how about that? Because he wanted to kind of change things, and so.
Changed
those
things,
people
dude.
are still my dear friends.
You changed things. I mean, the stuff we did together was pretty awesome, and breaking out your incredible yellow convertible.
Yeah, my daughter still says that sees the car.
Coolest ad ever.
Well, people are like, they'd call us and say they're not wearing seatbelts. I'm like,
oh my God,
it's a '68 Firebird convertible, you dork,
dude. The next day it aired, and you're like, oh shit. We're getting called. I'm like, dude, there aren't lap belts.
No, not in those cars. I said they had seatbelts on.
So the first time I used that car was we have to get to it, adventure dysfunction.
Yes.
Can you give a little backstory to this, as best you know?
Yes, this is the recruitment video.
Again, Marty will be mentioned, so we'll have to drink again. But anyway.
So I loved what you did with the credit union, right? So your client, the credit union, that Elvis is alive and
we did work for STCU, and then we did a bunch of work for the Credit Union Association of America.
Yes.
And we tried to get enrollment up, which it did do.
Oh, no doubt.
It was incredible. We did an awesome video series with Elvis impersonating. He's not dead. He's impersonating a branch manager at a credit union. And he's handing out ones.
One, two, three. It was brilliant. Okay, brilliant. And then the other one was the nerds, the CFOs that had, trying to say hello.
CFO convention.
And crazy. I just closed my laptop without saving anything.
CFO's Gone Wild.
CFO's Gone Wild. So I loved all of that dearly.
Those were Daniel Thorpe's ideas, but it was fun working with him on those. I got to give credit where credit's due. But
we were talking about getting using these videos for Spokane, and you knuckleheads came up with. This probably is an association of proctologists, the National Association of Proctologists, and the whole recruitment video is phallic symbols, including the clock tower.
Well, that was sort of why we thought of it.
God almighty. I still have it.
And Marty Dickinson going,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the glove.
Snap. You had everybody weighing in.
It was great. It was like, adventure dysfunction as opposed to erectile.
And anytime anyone said rear or whatever, there was like a like a score.
A little score. It turned out really well. I don't know what happened. Did it get used? I don't even know.
There's no such thing as the National Association of Proctologists.
I know there's not.
But no, it did not.
But it was really fun. God, it's a classic.
No, there was only one that was around erectile dysfunction, I believe, and I vetoed it, and my team was kind of mad about it. I think you were mad about it too at the time, a little bit. Like, come on, who are you saying no? And
I do remember this call.
And what I said to everybody was, they're letting us play alone. We do something that gets their attention or makes them uncomfortable, they're going to start.
That was the right decision.
They're going to start coming in our play box. Them being the board of directors.
That's right.
Our funding sources, and I don't want them in there. So let's not do something stupid to make them want to open the door and come in here. So
well, I didn't have that insight. But you made the right decision. I've always. But it's still a classic that never got played. I think it won an Addy Award for best video that never got used or whatever. Wow, so you were at Redline for 14 years.
Yeah.
And then you decide to go make a completely different to me, hugely different shift. So you're there, and then Redline, I'm not sure what happens. I just know
it got sold.
It got sold. And you're kind of like not sure what you're going to do next. I mean, I remember catching up with you about that.
But I knew that was coming. So
you did.
Sonesta bought us, right? Sonesta bought Redline. Okay. So what I told my team was...
because Redline is a Spokane...
Well, it went to Denver, actually.
But originally...
Yes, it was.
It was homegrown.
It was.
And losing a corporate...
Well,
headquarters is hard for this town.
What I love about that, I'll get to this in just a second, your the other part that we just mentioned, but so our CEO moves the corporation to Denver. Okay, we're moving to Denver. Well, I said, I'm not going. I'm the chief operating officer at the time. Yeah.
You love this town, dude.
Tom McKernan, our general counsel.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah.
I'm not leaving. Julie Shiflett, our chief financial officer. I'm not leaving. Our head of HR. I'm not leaving. So the C-suite of the company refuses to leave Spokane. So they open a satellite office here. They move the company to Denver, and we commute. So we never left.
That's right.
Because we wouldn't leave Spokane. Then Sonesta buys us. Well, Sonesta already has our positions. There's already a CEO. There's already a chief operating officer. There's already a general counsel. So the executive vice presidents knew, like every acquisition, that we would be said, here's your contract.
See you later.
See you later.
Yeah.
So I knew that was coming. So I told my team, hang in there because they don't have you, and I'm very happy to say that a lot of my team is still there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But yeah, so people
Are they living here? But
No,
they had to move. Yeah.
Yeah, they live in Denver. But what people don't know,
not the worst place in the world.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Denver's fantastic.
But I've owned a security company for 27 years.
See, I didn't know that.
Yep. 27 years. Major Bambino, as you know well.
Okay, so there is really there is really a guy named Major Bambino.
That is his birth name.
Okay.
When he was a state trooper, his name, he at a bar, they'd say, "What do you do?" And they'd say, "My name's Mike, and I work for the highway department." Because he doesn't want to explain Major, and he doesn't want to hear cop stories. But we owned that to our families, Sean and I, and Karina, his wife. He had it with his sergeant for about 4 years, and all they did was off-duty troopers. You would hire off-duty troopers. And so his sergeant wanted out, and I bought his shares. Sean and I did. I said, I want to buy half that. So I bought his shares, and then I said, let's start doing stuff differently. And so we ran it. I literally would get off work at a hotel and go stand out in a field as a guard. I mean,
no kidding.
Oh, I'm not kidding you.
I believe that. You love that shit anyway,
guard.
dude.
Well, not when it's 1 a.m.
secretly want to be.
Not when it's 1 a.m. But then we started to get our first employee, and Major's wife really ran. She's a registered. She was an ER nurse up at Deaconess.
Oh wow.
So she started running as it got more traction, and but our goal was that eventually I would leave Red Lion and Major would leave the State Patrol as a detective, and we would work together in this business. And
you've known him how long?
Since second grade.
Oh my God, how cool is that? That's a very Spokane thing.
It is.
It is.
It is. So people think that I just dropped into it, but I'm. Look, it was called State Protection Services.
Right.
We switched to GoJoe Patrol in 2010. Clinton Hosmer, I hired them to do it. Yep. So I would always work on all the marketing and all all of that. And Major,
you hired
would
us a
focus
couple
on
times to do some stuff.
Correct.
Just got some cool video of you guys looking cool. All the guys
driving around.
Because the goal is we're going to franchise this.
Correct. Well, that was my goal. Yes.
Now that is a big deal. That's a big step. That's a lot of work.
And a lot of money.
And I would imagine so.
A lot.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow. So you step away from Red Line and this train's kind of already going.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I knew, we were
timed it.
We were
You
publicly
jumped
traded,
off.
so I couldn't tell anybody that we were under contract. I knew the closing date. I knew, I knew probably 8 months before we closed.
Right.
So
that's a gift.
I was already getting everything together and then came on. But I thought, okay, we're handling franchise for Red Lion, and I know how this works. We could do this,
right.
and so we have a franchise in the D.C. area, in Hilton Head, Savannah. We're going to open Boise in 2 months. We'll be in Boise in July.
GoJoe Patrol.
GoJoe Patrol, baby.
Is in 3 cities now beyond Spokane.
Coeur d'Alene, Spokane, and 3 other locations.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah.
I remember you going to some conventions and coming back with cool insights into that, and that was a man.
Yep. And I'm at these franchise shows, and I see people from the franchise world that I knew prior, and
it's all connected.
And it's just it really is. So
wow.
So we're
are you scared of the future? Are you happy? Are you excited? Is it daunting? Are you killing it? Where are you at?
In
the franchise world, because that's a really hard.
It is hard.
Once you can get it off the ground, it's killer. But
It's a
getting it
fortune to
there.
acquire a franchise, and it's even a little bit harder because I'm so picky. What Red Lion did, because it was publicly traded, it had to announce every quarter how many franchises we sold and how many left. So we didn't want anybody to leave, and we wanted to boast that we were doing this because it affected our stock price.
Sure.
Well,
This is a publicly traded
I don't
company.
have to worry about that. So, but what I saw was, and this is not just Red Lion, every franchise brings in the bad actors. They're not good brand stewards. They are people who we should have never sold a franchise to
Yeah.
because they
One
don't
bad
adhere to
apple.
brand standards. They
Yeah.
don't pay their bill.
Right.
They don't, and so I could
You
probably
knew
have,
you knew what to avoid.
correct. So we could be at 20 franchises right now
Wow.
if I lowered my standards and did that. But that's going to come back to bite you later.
That is.
So I don't have people say, well, how big do you want to get? I don't know. It'll do it organically. In Spokane now, we employ 132 full-time employees.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 100. We have
Is that right?
18 to 23 cars out at night. And we're going to do the same thing in Boise that we'll own. We'll own that one. Our franchises are just getting off the ground. They pay a royalty once they're up and running. They pay 7.5% of their gross revenues for 10 years.
Okay.
And we support them through marketing. In fact, I'm going to go out and help them with some sales calls in Savannah next month.
So why private security? It is growing, isn't it?
It's out of control.
I mean, homelessness has to be part of this.
Mm-hmm.
The right?
Police. So
Why?
we just went to the Fraternal Order of Police conference last summer in Vegas, and what's happening is police departments are experiencing a 45% increase in early retirement. They're saying,
Yes,
"I'm out."
That's right.
They're all struggling with recruitment, and the people that they do get to interview, a large portion don't even qualify to become a police officer.
That's right.
So the problem is that the police departments are completely overworked.
And they can't recruit.
They can't, and so the last thing
We've
they're
actually
going to
been doing
do
that.
is go after someone on the street, breaking a window, vandalism. They don't. It's not that they don't want to do it; they just can't do it.
They can't do it.
They can't do it.
They're
And
too
so
taxed with the
private
bigger
security is booming. Our revenues have seen double-digit growths year after year after year after year because people are just had enough, and we're not solving anything. So, what we're doing is, if you're my client,
Right.
then it ain't going to happen on your property. But we're not solving it. We're just saying, not here, move over there.
You're
Move
moving.
over
You're
there.
moving the problem.
You're not touching our client, but we're not solving it. So so it's everywhere. Private security is booming because of that right now. And what's interesting is, since we started our company, right, 27 years ago, we've never had a year that has not done better than the previous year.
That's remarkable.
Ever.
That's remarkable.
During COVID. It's just, it's amazing. And
Wow.
And we were lucky enough to
That's
be able
incredible.
to retain these employees who, quite frankly, we didn't have work for, but we could retain them, And so, everybody went through
PPP and all that stuff.
just the nightmare of it all.
No, it was.
But I'm telling you right now, it is absolutely on fire. And
Are there cities you won't go to?
yes, we've looked at some areas. The state of California, I don't know if I'm going to go to at all,
Yeah.
just because the joint employer rule, where they want to try to say that it's you're an
San
employee
Francisco
of the franchise. Yeah.
is a dangerous place now.
Well, it is, and so we don't want. I mean, there's places in Spokane we won't take the account.
Yeah.
Because we're afraid we don't want to put our guard in a situation.
I've talked about this a bunch. I don't actually. You and I have not talked about this, but I did this series on homelessness with Gavin Cooley, 5-part, and really dove in it for 2 years. What's the problem with homelessness? Is there a solution around it? Is there a way to figure it out? And Spokane is currently top 10 per capita highest homeless populations in America. I mean, and it's. I was just in DC. We went to Houston to film, studying that. Nowhere near the sort of exposure or the the feeling of homelessness that you experience that you do here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real.
It is real, and we run into it every day. You know, one of the premises behind GoJoe
Sure you do.
was I wanted to bring the hospitality component into the security guard. So back to being a smartass and a hellion, my goal was to terrorize security guards. That was my goal in life as a young kid, because they'd come up to you. They'd come up to you, and they would
the mall cop.
They'd come up and you know they're not a cop, and they've got a gun, and how they got a gun I don't know, and they're acting like that,
Like they're in charge, like they're an actual officer. The phone cops.
Yes,
We used to call them.
Yes,
from WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yep. So we tell our guys how you approach someone will dictate the outcome of that encounter. Sure. So we have armed guards, but we have probably of the 132 people that are guards and our corporate staff, I'd say 25 people are armed. We're very picky about that, and well, you have to be. But our liability insurance is insane. And we've never had a claim, for the record. But what we tell them is, don't be that. Don't do that. Don't look like that. So our armed guards have their vests underneath. They don't have a flak chest with
don't
like
invite
grenades on them.
And Harry Sladich to come along.
We don't. Yes, we don't want that. And so it's interesting. Our franchise owner does a ride along before they open their store, and the one out of Hilton Head. They came back. I said, "How was your ride along last night?" And he goes, "It was really amazing." And Jocelyn was our lead patrol officer then, and she pulls up, and there's this homeless tent there, and she comes up, and they're not sure how she's going to approach it, and she says, "Knock knock," and they go, "Yes, hey, it's Jocelyn." "All right, yep, you can't be here. Look, you got a lot of stuff. I'm going to make a couple other stops. I'm going to give you the dignity to get everything together. But when I come back, you got to be gone." "All right." And so they came back, and he was gone. And so
she handled that.
It was knock, knock, not get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Not whatever. It was, and
creating confrontation when there isn't one.
Well, look, they have no home. No. They're cold. They're hungry. And you're yelling at them. Well, what do they have to, where are they going to go? And so we are very effective at what we do, but we do it and we have all of the numbers of all the houses. Yes. And everybody deserves that. We have all the numbers where they can call. We have a handout card that says, this is where you can go for food. This is where you can go to stay. We actually go by the House of Charity. And I forget who else gives us food, but the guards in the cars have food, and they'll use their judgment on who gets it. So, they're not just handing it out to everyone, but we have that as a resource. And what it does is it befriends them. So when we roll up, they know that we're going to have a conversation with them. They also know that we don't call the police very often, and when we do, the police come. Because they know when we're calling them. That's
a stick.
We didn't create a situation that now they have to fix.
Right.
So it's that, and then our commitment to the environment. We have all hybrid cars. We buy for every mile we drive, we buy carbon offsets. We've just funded a big field in Colorado, and we bought our first electric car 2 weeks ago. So you
don't have to do that.
So we don't. But what I want again. If all things are equal, who's cheapest? So I can say our technology and the reporting you get from our clients it sounds like a commercial for GoJoe. I guess it is.
No, it is.
But our reporting, are the way that we train our guards and the commitment to the environment, it just balances things out. And the other thing that people don't understand is when a guard is a complete asshole, you might get them to go and the guard drives away. They come back and they throw a rock through your window or they graffiti your. So let's not get them pissed off at the business, because when you're on the premise,
our job is not to
represent the business.
That's right.
You represent the business. That's right. And so when
all that hospitality training, all that stuff that
we had that in a 400-room hotel. We had assault. You had
everything that
you would
deal
with. We couldn't
here.
say get the fuck out of here.
No, you could not.
We couldn't say that.
No, you couldn't.
Right? We had to say, "Sir, what's going on? May I talk to you for a minute? Can we go over here? Let's do that." So we incorporate that into what we do, and then we just added body cams to our drive. We hadn't had them before, but we're adding body cams, and the cars have cameras running the whole time.
Wow.
So
wow. It's just an amazing.
And drones are next. Wait till we'll have to come back because the drone systems that we're going to launch are mind-boggling.
Okay, is that invasive? Are people going to freak out about that? What are they doing?
No,
what are drones doing?
It's well.
I mean, I know how we use drones.
They're doing all kinds of
We're
things.
filming all kinds of stuff.
But like for example, and I've talked to Dennis Murphy, who's the president of Hayden Homes. He wants his guys to handle it, but what I'm trying to get them to do is when they're building these big, huge, they're putting in 250 homes, right?
Yeah.
A security guard driving the streets. Well, the bad guys are just running through the park, through the backyards and whatever. Well, a drone can go up every 20 minutes and run a route.
Brilliant.
And then go down, right?
Smart.
Like the North-South Freeway. I want to reach out to the DOT because that whole beautiful stretch of freeway, it's not open yet.
Right.
So no workers, they're tagging all the bridges. Well, a drone could fly that whole length every 20 minutes and catch anybody, and then we send our patrol car there. So we're going to use it like that. Robots are not here yet. There was the dog. You've seen that dog. That thing is creepy as hell. It was like a big spider. Major tried to tip it over, and so robots aren't there yet. If you have a big perimeter fence, maybe where the thing just mindlessly goes around the fence. But drones are the next thing.
That's okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
That makes total sense to me. That's kind of a brilliant.
And then coming by your house when you're taking a shower.
Oh, that's not
so
good for anybody. How beneficial is this whole life that you have? Your wife is an attorney to get you out of trouble. How often has Sean,
She said a long time ago, never, ever call me from jail. If you get one call, honey, don't waste it on me.
Wow.
And she's not bluffing.
Wow.
So thank God I haven't ever had to call anybody from jail.
Wow. No kidding.
But
Dennis Thompson, that's what you call.
But that's exactly right.
Skinny Casey.
Yes, that's right. But no. I believe me. She reads every contract, everything that we're there. She does a lot of the work for our company. But no.
She's. I always thought of her as a saint. Just being married to you and putting up with that. You guys are very.
Oh, we are.
You are.
Well, someone at one of our class reunions, like 20 years ago, said
she's very patient.
They said, "You're married to Harry Sladich." They go, "What's that like?" And she had a big grin on her face. She said, "It's a blast." So I said, "Thanks, honey."
That's true. No, she's awesome, man.
I don't think it's always a blast.
You found the right,
and she doesn't really drink.
Oh, so that's
good. So she's always the DD.
Take care of you. Yeah. Not in Vegas that night.
That's my Uber. That's what Uber's for.
That was one of the funnest nights I have had. maybe ever. Okay, what's next for you? 20 franchises? Or you're like, I'm okay.
Yeah, we are. Well, and I've got friends who are buying hotels that want my opinion on it. So I'm looking at some of that.
Consulting?
It will never be. It's fun to go back in that world because I know it so well. You know
it so well.
But my focus is GoJoe Patrol. It really is. And
yeah, I can tell you're lighting up, dude.
Yeah, I love it. I love the positioning that we've done because no one can compare themselves to us. They really can't. I had one franchise guy that said, I think we need canines. And I said, we don't need canines. You can have a pet dog in your office, but you can't have a canine. Well, I think you're selling yourself short on a canine. I go, it's not our image. That's all I need is somebody with a rabid dog on a leash. Whatever. No. I mean, we're so picky about who gets a gun.
Different way.
We really are. And you don't need that. No. You need to de-escalate the situation.
Not the other way around.
And prevent it. Right. Not create the situation.
So why stay in Spokane all these years? You could have left to Denver. You could have gone all kinds of places. Why? What is it about this place that I've asked pretty much everybody that has been a guest is somehow connected here. What is it about this place that's so unique, do you think?
Well, I'll use...
besides, I live here.
Yes, that was going to be first. But I'll use what I heard as the president of Visit Spokane. We hosted folks from all over the nation to come visit our city and consider bringing their conference here, right? So every single person said, I can't believe how beautiful it is here. I cannot believe that you have 4 seasons, that you can go to a concert and go to work and go to your kid's ball game. And, where I live, I have to decide, am I going to leave early or miss the thing, or whatever. And they go, we cannot believe the food here and the beautiful scenery and the rivers and the lakes. And for me, that is all true. We have the diversity. I still ride my dirt bike. I go ride dirt bikes. I ski.
Well, I'm going to
go
talk
to the
about
lake.
that before we close.
We do all of that, but it's also where my core is. I mean, my friends, my best friends, still live here,
right?
And they're here for the same reason. And so,
every time I see, first of all, you're probably over Facebooking. Let's be honest.
I know.
You need to.
I'm being told.
I'm not the first.
Major says I don't need to hear what you had for dinner.
Right, but it is cool seeing you go. It's 8 a.m. and I'm at Lookout, and I've already skied 2 runs, and
I was back for a 1 o'clock conference call.
Yeah, right. I mean, you totally just take on life, though. You don't fuck around. You go for it. You're like, I can go do that.
Yeah, there's no guaranteed date for any of us.
Yeah.
So there's no way. I always tell people, do it. If just do it.
Right. Just go.
Well, you can figure 1,000 reasons why not to do it.
That's right. But you can do all those things here. Yeah. Speaking of kind of your love for dirt bikes and ATVs, you about killed me one day. Speaking of filming, we filmed for GoJoe at your house. And you're like, hey, I want to show you something. And I jump in this ATV with you, and you about killed me.
The side by side. No, we just went off a jump.
Oh my God. We went like up a serious jump.
Yeah, where our property goes down, where the horses were, our horses have
my
since
God.
passed away. But
we're like, you and I are like this, not the smallest fellas in the game.
Yep.
Holy crap. You knew what was going to, you totally set me up.
I just said, hang on.
I think I was in traction for a week.
No, you were not. It's a seamless landing.
It wasn't seamless and it wasn't easy, but you love that stuff. You love your toys.
I do. Yeah. The dirt bike.
Dirt bikes,
the reason
man.
I like the dirt bike is you
the hell?
cannot think about anything else when you're ripping through these trails and stuff.
It forces you to be focused.
I can't think about work. I can't think about what's going on or my to-do list or whatever. And when I stop, I literally feel like I was on like a mental vacation because everything's coming so fast.
No, yeah.
And it's just that. And then you're out with the guys, you're sitting on the tailgate, and so yeah, I love it. And I hurt myself really, really bad about 5 years ago.
You're not the youngest guy anymore. Someone needs to tell you this.
Not. But I just got the newest, the new 2-stroke. It's a KTM 300 XCW, and it is unbelievable. But look, and my wife's like, seriously, are you going to buy another dirt bike? And I said, yes, I am.
You going to stop me? You going to sue me?
Yeah.
She could stop you. She's a pretty powerful lady.
She could, but she doesn't want to because she knows it's how I bleed off my energy.
All right, philosophy of life. What do you think when you look back on all this stuff? What's been the thing that's made you? Because you're one of my heroes. You really are. You're so fun. You're never not enjoying what you're doing. Is that true? Pretty much.
I mean,
there's days.
I mean, there's days where you're depressed, you're sad, but no,
you're loving it.
No, absolutely no. But it's take the opportunities. I mean, another dear friend of mine
Carpe diem, baby.
Her name's Lisa Furfine. She worked for the sports magazine, a national sports magazine, and I was in San Diego at a conference, and we were walking back from the opening night, and I was with Pauly. Phelan.
Pauly Phelan. I love Pauly Phelan.
And so this limo,
I still have a huge crush on Pauly
pulls
Phelan.
up,
and so do you.
Yeah,
oh my God, everybody does.
So this limo pulls up, and there's this gal standing there, and he looks at us and he goes, "Are you guys going to the party?" And I look at Pauly and I look at this gal, and she has a smile on her face, and I said, "Yes, we are." So we get in. This woman, I have no idea who it is. I knew she was with the conference because she had her name tag on, whatever. And so we get in.
Of course,
and
you're going to say
we go. They're rolling Havana cigars, and we're drinking, and we're thinking someone is going to kick us out of here. And like, put it.
Of course, Polly goes along with
Put
the
it
whole
on the
thing.
Underhills. Put it on the Underhills. Put it on the Underhills. On the Fletch. So so anyway, so we had a blast, and then we went back, introduced her, and she to this day is one of my dearest friends, and she introduced me to other people and other experiences and opportunities for myself and my business. And it was because you just said,
You just roll.
What the hell?
Of course I'm supposed to be here.
yes, of course I am. Yes, I am.
I think I've done that.
Yes, I am. Are you O'Brien? Remember on Seinfeld, O'Brien? Yes, I'm O'Brien. But I think the philosophy in life is say yes more and just do it. And my God, I think people think that as you get older that you're supposed to become more serious. And there's a sign in my house that says "Don't get old; it's a trap." And I think it is. I mean, look, we all have our responsibilities.
Just based on the shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, come on. You're not going to take it. I'm sorry. You were saying,
but I think what I always said is yes, I'll have fun, but at the end of the day, I know where my line is. I know that I have either responsibilities or commitments that I must make, and I'm a very loyal person, and so when I make those commitments or whatever. Then at Red Lion, people would say I'm one of the funnest bosses that they've ever had, but I'm also one of the toughest because we're going to have fun, but we're going to hit our numbers.
Oh yeah, no.
And if you don't hit your numbers,
you're always clear. Get your shit done.
Yeah, if you don't get that done, then it's going to be you're going to see another side of me that you're not going to like. So don't put me in that position. Is what I tell them.
What did you always say? If you're late for work on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday.
No, I said that's a great idea. No, I said that's a great idea. Hell of a thing for you to say on your last day of work. Or I got a better idea. Why don't you get a cardboard box and I'll meet you at your office?
No, you did say, don't. Yeah. If you're late for work on Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday.
Well, I have said that.
No, I know you said that.
But I've never asked anybody to do something that I hadn't already done.
Right.
I've already done it.
Yeah.
I'm in there. I'm not oblivious to it. But
and that's why you're.
But you need to do your job, but you should have fun while you're doing it.
So I want to circle back to the NIL thing before we go, because I think that's a big deal that you're sitting on that, and people are so curious about it. People are beginning to realize, oh, that school paid that player $1 million to play there.
Correct.
And I don't think that's
University of Washington.
It's kind of been under the radar. Okay, how can people help?
Well,
because this is of any of the schools in the country,
yes,
of those 365 that play,
yes,
this is as unique of an environment as there is.
It is.
This is the Cinderella of them all.
It is.
This should not be happening.
Correct.
And yet it is.
Yes.
So, and everybody here, I mean, really wants this thing to continue, to get to 9 straight Sweet 16s,
Correct.
to get to 24 or 25 now consecutive NCAA tournaments. It's just, I mean, our daughters do not know what it's like for the Zags not to be in the tournament.
Nobody
Harry.
does. Nobody that's I mean, but even those of us who remember what it was take it for granted, and we're just formulating that right now. Like, for example, how many times businesses are trying to come up with an incentive trip or incentive for their top performers or whatever.
Right. Sure.
Not everybody is a Zags fan, okay? So that's okay.
What?
But yeah, I know. I just heard that. but if there's a group of individuals who really want to interact, see, the problem is for a lot of these places is if you don't have tickets to the game, it's hard for you to interact with the athletes.
That's true.
So we want to get these athletes the money that they were promised. They're saying, okay, if you come here, we'll get. It's nowhere near these numbers that everyone was handing out. But if a business said, look, if you guys hit your sales goals, we're going to have a 3-point practice with 2 of your favorite athletes or whatever. And we're going to go down
Pretty
there.
cool.
They're going to sign it. You can interact with them.
Pretty cool.
You can take pictures, da-da-da-da-da.
They get paid.
And they
You
get
get a great,
paid. And you
amazing
do that,
experience.
right? And so they just need to think about it as an incentive. There's a lot of businesses here that have done some commercials, some nicer than the others. But it doesn't need to be on the TV. Sorry, Q6 or News 4, but it can be social media, it can be print,
That's right.
it can be anything like that. And so we're trying to figure out how to best do that. I'm kind of getting caught up to speed on this. It's quite complex, and again, it's changing drastically. The nonprofit side of it, where you could say, I'm going to give the athlete $20,000, and I just want them to go to the children's hospital and see the kids. Okay, you get the write-off. They do that. Well, the 501c3 status of some of these places are changing. The attorneys generals for each of the states are saying, I don't think you're really a nonprofit. And so that's being challenged. So that's kind of on hold right now a little bit until they can get that figured out. But I think the biggest thing is, they had a fundraiser, said, help a ZAG today, whatever. And, it was going to be matched dollar for dollar up to $200,000. And I think they raised $6,000. I mean, it's just, people just don't understand what it's.
Yeah,
what
it's not been done
going.
well. I don't think. I mean,
No.
I'm as a season
Friends
ticket
is
holder
like-
for 25
Well,
years.
that's why I'm on the
sitting
damn
in there,
committee,
right?
because I bitched
Yeah,
about it.
I mean, well, exactly. And Mark comes up and does his best to tell the story of it, and nobody understands it. It's like, what's the ZAG Collective? I don't get it. Like, they have not explained it well. I don't think, as a story guy.
I totally
I'm like,
agree.
I don't get what that is. Yet here we are. I've done 2 commercials with Anton Watson this last year, and he did really well from this experience, and should have, and was amazing, and it worked for that. That basketball is signed by, that whole thing is signed by players who we filmed
Yeah.
over the last 25 years,
Yep.
right? Including Dusty Stromer
Yep.
recently on a project that he did for Second Harvest.
Yes.
And it was incredible. We wanted to drive along. We spent a whole morning with them experiencing what it's like to hand out food to people, for one thing, and their Zilch program, which is to get food waste eliminated from the world, because there's a ton of it that doesn't need to happen.
Yep.
And he was great to work with. He understood it. He was real about it. He was a smart kid. I just totally pulled for that guy. What a cool dude.
Yep. No, we're lucky.
Those things are out there and they're real. And you and I have had a little bit of taste of those.
We have, Chris is dealing with all, because there's rules around that, and it's very complex. It's not
changing all
easy
the
to be an
time.
AD.
No, my God.
And so anyway, it's also about context. So, I look back and think about, there's not very many leaders in this community that I don't know.
Sure.
Or I couldn't call on.
Yeah.
Well, I get asked that all the time.
Put it a better way, that wouldn't answer your call.
Correct.
Really, there's a distinction there.
And people say, how'd you do that? And I always say, give value first. If you want to meet someone, go to where they're at, figure out what they're involved, and then truly be involved genuinely and sincerely.
Right, yeah.
And you don't have to do anything else, because you're gonna get connected. It's the people who go to a networking event and they're just waiting to pitch their idea, or they're just waiting. No,
Go be present.
You're planting a tree. It's going to take a long time before it bears fruit, but if you do it right,
That's right.
it's going to be
That's
fantastic.
right. Yeah. And that's we learned that from our dads.
We did.
And that's been no different than the stuff that we've done over time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I have to say this. Jason Thielbar says hi.
Yeah, I love Jason.
He's circled back around and we're doing some work together.
Yep.
And if I didn't say that, I know he said today, "Oh, I'll be listening." So,
Jason is one of the most brilliant people I've worked with, and one of the most difficult people to manage. But I say that
just like
I say that with exactly. I say that with all the love, and
he is
because
amazing.
I came into a very dysfunctional environment at Red Lion when he was there, and I quickly found the people that I knew would take us to the next level, and he was one of them.
Dude, brilliant guy.
And really, he'd come into my office and he'd be frustrated. But what I always appreciated was, when I was frustrated, that someone would listen and not immediately tell me what I should do about it, but just let me.
Yeah.
You might want to consider a few things. Go away. Come back. Don't think. I'm not asking you to take control. I'm just asking you to listen.
Right.
Let me vent this out or whatever. And
think out loud.
He normally would go back and say, I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I adore, and he's working very closely with my dear friend David Heath.
Yes, he is.
On
yes,
that.
he is.
So yeah.
Well, man, thanks for doing this.
It was fun.
I know there's a lot we probably didn't talk about that we probably shouldn't.
Yep. But you're
I'm just honored that you're on this.
well, I'm honored that you even thought of calling, because I was
Oh
just
my
going to come
God,
by and have
come
a
on.
drink.
Well.
But your our story is the same thing that we just talked about. It's just finding, a camaraderie and a friendship there, and I haven't seen you in literally probably a year.
That's your fault.
It is.
100%.
But when I walked through the door, it felt like I had just seen you
I
last
know.
week.
Isn't that
So,
that is so true? There's
yeah.
not everybody that I feel that way about, but I don't know. You're a special dude. You've got, I don't know. I'm excited for what else you keep doing.
thank you.
But you are. There's only one Harry Sladich.
And you can't. People say you're going to retire, and I'm like, everybody that retires.
Yeah, what do you think about
dies.
that?
Everybody dies.
See, I don't want to do. They do.
I swear to
I
God.
don't want to do that.
My wife doesn't want me around. But here's the thing, Frank,
True.
and I think you're the same way. Is the people who are retiring, a lot of folks, it appears to me that they've been in an environment, or they work for Boeing, they work forever, and they go to the office, and there is a routine to that, right? For the last 14 years at Red Lion, if I wanted to travel, I would travel. If I wanted to take the day off and blow it off, I would leave. If I wanted to go to that conference, I would. If I didn't want to go to that conference, I wouldn't. I could work 80 hours a week. I could work 20 hours a week. And owning your own business is the same thing. I mean, yes, you still have to deliver, like we talked about.
Yes, you do.
But for the last 20 years, I have done things.
You're used to that.
When I want to do them.
You're used to
and
that
so
rhythm.
it's not this,
You're controlling this schedule.
burden. It's just not this monotonous burden for me. It's been fun.
yeah.
And so as long as I can still do that,
Yeah.
and at some point we'll Major and I will just say, either we'll have our team take it over, and then just say, send me my money, or whatever. But I'll always be involved, because I still love it.
You're always going to want to. Tom Stevenson was just on here.
Oh, yeah.
He was actually the last guest that sat here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's
great
an
guy.
amazing guy.
Oh, my
what he's
God.
doing with
Smart.
Spike to Go.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God, brilliant guy. I don't know. I know. Following you with him. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking, but no, he is an amazing dude. But he talked a lot about, that transition from. I mean, he running Moss Adams.
Absolutely.
I mean, dude, that's an organization. He so downplayed it, of course.
Yes.
But that's a big deal. How do you transition to that, to something that still fills your bucket?
Yep.
And I think about that a lot. Like just, but I'm like, I'm still going to be doing stuff. I'm still going to be
Absolutely.
telling stories. I'm still
Yes.
going to be consulting.
If I'm just left to
all
hang
kinds of
around and
stuff.
try to golf and drink, I'll become an
You're a
alcoholic.
shitty golfer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a terrible
You're
golfer.
a horrible golfer.
I'd rather ride my dirt bike on that golf course, man. Sand traps and shit.
All right, man. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. I'll give you your life back. We could talk for 40 hours and nobody will listen. All right.
All right.
Cheers. Thanks for being on this.
Thank you for having me.
MIP Podcast was filmed at the studio of Corner Booth Media. Please sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere podcasts can be found.
We'd love it if you'd rate, review, and subscribe to help our podcast grow. Be good to yourself and stay interesting.